So Aroldis Chapman and Zach Britton are clearly, two of the more Yankees tenured relievers and dominant relievers when they're on, right? Um, Problem is, they haven't really been on this year. Now, for different reasons. Zach Britton is coming back from an injury, a pretty serious one, so he right now is undergoing his spring training, if you will, and it's going to take him a while to get his mechanics and his velocity and everything, and just to kind of get back into his mode, and especially his confidence. I mean, I'm glad Boone put him in last night to get that one key out, and he got a key strikeout, and I think that'll help boost his confidence. But that said, he's still got a ways to go. The other guy, Aroldis Chapman, I mean, he's coming back from a little bit more of a robust injury, at least related to the arm. He had elbow inflammation, and which could be a little bit more serious. So I see a little bit of a slower road back, but he's kind of notorious for, if he comes back from a setback or whatever, it takes him a while to kind of find the strike zone again, and it's just that's textbook Aroldis Chapman when has a break or this, that, or whatever, and it takes him a while to find the zone, and then his confidence too. But when he's on, I mean, he's unstoppable. Like the first 50 games of the season, he was absolutely unstoppable, and he's gone through this stretch recently where he's blown some huge saves and given up some huge home runs and kind of lost his way, lost confidence in his fastball, which to me, I don't know why, it's the most dominant pitch, the most dominant fastball in the major leagues. He also developed a splitter, which he abandoned, and he started using his changeup and some other off-speed pitches, which started getting pounded. So he's got to find his way again as well. And until that happens, I mean, the Yankees will be, unfortunately, at a deficit of two of their key relievers. I mean, yes, last night they sent down Steve Ridings, one of their more younger relievers who's been pitching really well lately. They sent him down and Rob Brantley down because Jordan Montgomery's back up and Gary Sanchez is back up. So they're down one reliever. Britton's back now, so I think it's going to take a little time. I don't see Chapman coming back for probably another week or two. And then hopefully they'll put him in lower leverage situations, and then it'll help him transition back towards the closer role. But at least the Yankees have Chad Green and Johnny Loaiza and some of these other guys too, like Wandy Peralta and Licky. And unfortunately, Green went through a rough patch, Loaiza went through a rough patch, and a lot of these guys went through this rough patches at the same time. So the bullpen was just like, oh my heavens! I mean, the bullpen was just collapsing everywhere. So. And thankfully, Clay Holmes was acquired here, and he's been throwing well, and Ridings has been throwing well. And I hope Ridings comes back with the September call-ups, and I think they need as much bullpen depth as possible to ease the transition back for Britton and Chapman. But the point is, what are they going to do at the end of the season? Now, the question is that, and what I wanted to ask today. Are they going to trade one of them or both of them? Chapman has a $16 million option for next year, and there are teams out there who could use a dominant reliever if he goes back to being a dominant reliever. Teams like the Dodgers or the Padres, and teams that have the resources to be able to acquire him and pay a salary. Obviously, if the Yankees pick up some of his salary, then they'll get a better prospect package in return. Or they may even have to swap him for another onerous salary of some sort. But is it possible? Yeah, I think it's possible. I think he's probably the most likely of the two to be moved. But with regards to Zach Britton, this year's a little bit of an aberration too, obviously, because if you look at his body of work, he's had a low 2 or sub 2 ERA in almost every year with the Yankees. So he's been dominant and he's been consistent. Okay, he doesn't have a 103 mile an hour fastball like Chapman does, so he doesn't look as dominant. But he induces ground balls. He gets a lot of clutch outs. So, and I'm hoping he goes back to that. In the next couple of weeks before the postseason starts, and he has a $14 million option next year, but what some folks don't know is it's already been picked up. It's a mutual option, team and player. It's already picked up, so the Yankees are on the hook for $14 million next year. Will they trade him? I'm sure there's a team that would acquire him as well for that 1 year. Probably the same teams or some other teams in the American League and whatnot. And we'll see what kind of package it would extract from him. But if one of them is more likely to be moved, in my opinion, it's going to be Chapman. and Britton be the one to stay. But I would not be surprised if one or both of them are moved. And that would also free up, upwards of close to $30 million in payroll for the Yankees that they could use towards starting pitching. They could use towards other things. And, namely guys like, you have some guys, Clayton Kershaw's a free agent. He might not come here, but he's a free agent. Justin Verlander's coming back from Tommy John. I would not hesitate to take a flyer on him. Even if it's a low guaranteed salary with a boatload of incentives, performance-based incentives or innings-based incentives, so that the more he pitches, the better he gets paid. I would sign up for that in 1 second. Okay, with Justin Verlander, he is a gamer. He's an absolute bulldog. He's going to be a Hall of Famer, and I think we need a 1A or 1B situation with Cole. We don't have that right now. As much as I like Nestor Cortez, and these other guys, Jamison Tynes pitching really well. And Jordan Montgomery's going to be back. And then you have guys like Luis Hill, but I don't want to throw him to the wolves yet. And Domingo Germán, who's still having issues and still working his way back, too, from, I think, shoulder inflammation. We need a clear, co-ace with Cole. And, Justin Verlander presents an opportunity to do that. And that's provided he comes back at full strength, which I think he will, because he's been working pretty hard at it. But even if it's spot start, even if it's long relief, getting darts at him, whatever, I'm guessing he's going to want to start. So I would, see if he would be willing to sign up for that, or something to that nature, and really, really incentivize the hell out of a contract for him. But they are movable pieces. There's a couple other movable pieces as well, like Gleyber Torres. There's a potential. You have Luke Voigt, and there's a couple other pieces as well. I mentioned Judge before, but people hate hearing it. But he's a movable piece too. But sticking to the bullpen, I think Britton and Chapman, one of them or both of them, could be moved. And the Yankees have enough depth on the youth end, especially with some of these younger guys now. Abreu pitching really well. And they've got Wandy, they've got Joely, they've got a bunch of these guys. And I think Joely might be, might be a free agent at the end of the year, but he wouldn't cost $15 million like these other guys would. So they have enough depth, and they still have Green and Loizaga for several more years. Licky's here, Abreu, they've got a bunch of guys. And I would not be surprised if Severino comes back in a bullpen. It could be a John Smoltz type situation where he goes from a starter to a bullpen. But this is not necessarily because of age and injury. He just can't come back healthy. So might as well use that money and you'd have a $10 million reliever instead of a 16 and a 14. So it's a way of thinking about it too. You get 2 or 3 innings that darts out of him, and then you add a starter, or you add 2 starters in the back end. The reinforcements get moved around, but the rotation and the bullpen have just gotten better. So, but let me know what you think. Do you think they will be moved? Do you think they should be moved? And who do you think might be an acquiring team? I would venture to guess Dodgers and the Padres would be interested in one or both. And some other teams as well in the American League who are kind of working their way up into contention. And I don't know if the Yankees would trade them within the American League East unless they get a really good prospect package in return. But there's some other teams in the Central and the West who could use these guys as well. And even don't sleep on the Milwaukee Brewers. Adding one of them to the Brewers' already strong bullpen could be something there. Or the Reds, some of these guys, you pair one of them with Amir Garrett and some of them. There's some options here. In the National League East, Britton to the Braves looks like an appealing option. There's some options, but I just wanted to open this up for discussion. And do you want them to go? Where do you want them to go? What do you think we could and should get back for them? Let's have a little discussion here. You let me know what you think, guys.